Avatar sees the return of Ra's al Ghul to Batman the Animated Series. After his not-so-fatal fall into the giant Lazarus pit at the end of the Demon's Quest two-parter, he returns here to lead Batman on another globe-trotting adventure to chase after yet another chance at immortality. In 1898 Egypt, an expedition led by an unnamed explorer has discovered a tomb underground. The explorer is lowered inside the ancient resting place and met by a blinding green light, which he approaches. Above, the rope his fellow excavators tied to his harness is uncontrollably yanked deeper and deeper underground until they see that it's been broken and burned. They all proceed to flee in terror. In present day, Bruce Wayne has funded a Treasures of the Pharaohs exhibit at one of Gotham's museums. The night before the opening, a masked figure breaks in to steal the Scroll of Osiris, the oldest Egyptian document known to man. Batman shows up to stop him, revealing the masked man to be Ra's al Ghul's bodyguard, Ubu. But before he knew what hit him, Ra's himself enters and throws an Egyptian cobra at the Dark Knight, which bites and injects him with deadly venom. Thanks to an antidote on his utility belt, Batman survives the encounter and flies to Gibraltar with the aim of enlisting the help of Ra's daughter, Talia. Together, they look for Ra's in Egypt and eventually discover he's searching for Thoth Khepera, an ancient queen of 2 continents who ruled for 1,000 years with the power of life and death itself in her grasp. They chase Ra's and his group to the same tomb seen earlier in the flashback, but what awaits there is something not even the great Ra's al Ghul could fathom. Kevin Altieri was back to direct this one after helming Ra's al Ghul's original appearances in Off Balance and The Demon's Quest Parts 1 and 2. Altieri also directed the character in his final appearance on the show. That episode, Showdown, is the last one on the docket that we'll be talking about this month. I guess Kevin had dibs on Ra's, since he was the only person who directed any installment the character was in until the leader of the Society of Shadows re-emerged on Superman, the Animated Series. In his 4th writing credit that we're covering this month already, Michael Reeves wrote this story himself, and I will say, it's a darn good one. Like the previous Ra's al Ghul episodes in the show, Avatar has a very Indiana Jones-style feel. Reeves' cinematic influences may not be indie alone, though. We'll talk about that in a minute. I think we have to give the spoiler warning early here because there's a lot to talk about that's going to give away the ending and little bits along the way. Avatar has my seal of approval several times over, so check it out if you haven't ever seen it. I'd recommend watching it before hearing my thoughts on everything. Bruce and Talia eventually do meet Ra's and his men in the tomb, but they're held at gunpoint after the small group gets the jump on them. Thoth Khepera's sarcophagus is open to reveal a set of scrolls that Ra's thinks holds the key to true immortality. However, they crumble from age in his hands. A hidden switch is then accidentally discovered that reveals a staircase leading further underground. Ra's descends the steps to discover a Lazarus pit surrounded by skeletons. The legendary queen then rises from the liquid.
I am Thoth Khepera. Those who have joined me share their knowledge with me. We are legion.
She implores Ra's to join her, and soon, Khepera's terrifying true form is revealed. She's consuming Ra's life force, turning him elderly when Talia and Batman break up the ritual. Thoth summons the soul she's consumed out of the Lazarus pit, and they form tentacles to kill the intruders. Batman ends up throwing a grenade Khepera's way, but it does no damage. Ra's, Talia, and Batman then book it out of there. The Dark Knight stays behind long enough to knock over a statue in the hopes of stopping the Queen for good, as the whole tomb starts to break apart. Everyone there escapes just in time to see Ra's youth, if you want to call it that, restored. Batman and Talia lead the criminals away on horseback before Talia, feeling guilty about her father, turns on Bruce in order to free Ra's and his men. They leave Batman in the desert with a lone canteen of water and pace off as the episode closes. Studio Junio animated Avatar, and it looks really great. The climax in particular is done especially well. There's a richness to the movement in that sequence that's epitomized in the big moments and small details equally. The storyboard for that section was drawn by Bruce Timm, and a portion of it was made available in the book Batman Animated. The energy pops off the page even in those drawings, so it's no surprise it worked so well in the actual episode. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but if you're a big fan of this show and you can get your hands on that book, I'd heavily recommend it. There are so many great passages in there, from character bios to behind-the-scenes tidbits and more. It's also co-written by Paul Dini. That's enough of a reason right there. Thoth Cappera herself has a wonderfully twisted design, and how she's used in her screen time didn't waste a frame. Everything in the Lazarus pit under the tomb looks badass, from how she moves to the details that line the peripherals. Having all those skeletons from different historical eras surround the pit is a perfectly ominous visual. This kind of heavy detail goes all the way back to the title card. At first glance, it's rather plain looking, but gets the point across. If you look closer, you can see Raish face to face with Thoth, Batman's eyes and ears, and the several more obvious bat logos posing as hieroglyphics. So cool. The character work accomplished with Talia and Raish in this episode was very strong. She legitimately didn't know her father had returned and felt betrayed by that fact. In turn, Raish feels similarly betrayed by his daughter's actions at the end of the Demon's Quest story. When Talia has her change of heart and turns on Bruce in order to set her father free, she may have been trying to get back in his good graces after hearing this comment earlier.
It is said that one finds immortality in one's offspring. Alas, I know that to be a lie.
That was freaking cold. Usually there's some chicanery going on with this family, and you can't trust the negative things they say to each other, but as evidenced by Talia's last-minute heel turn, this was a legit insult, and it hit its target hard. Talia is torn between Bruce, a man she truly loves, and her own father. You almost can't blame her for the ending. Except I can, because she left Batman alone in the desert. Surprisingly, Ubu was the only one who cared enough to throw the guy some water. That whole situation is kind of hilarious, by the way. What if you just happened upon a fully costumed Batman in the middle of an Egyptian desert? We never find out how he got back to civilization, but it's just funny to ponder. There are a couple other moments like that in the episode too, like how Bruce is apparently expecting an Egyptian cobra to bite him since he's carrying that specific antidote on his belt, or the James Bond-style trap of dropping a giant glass box on Bruce and Talia out of nowhere, or the fact that disintegrating ancient papers seem to be some of Batman's enemies' greatest weakness. Kyodai Ken says hello.
Mazui.
Bruce breaks out a few different outfits here and leaves the brown and yellow suit combo in the closet. This isn't completely unheard of, but it is rare for this series. After rocking a gray and pink ensemble in the opening sequence, Wayne dresses as an inverted Indiana Jones once he gets to Gibraltar. That follows the obvious and appreciated travel sequence homage to the same character. The illusions don't stop there. In order to defeat Thoth Cappera and destroy/trap her in her pit, Batman pushes over a massive statue with his legs. Sound familiar? I love seeing that kind of stuff woven in. Also, this one may not have been intentional, but when Raish is first seduced by Thoth Cappera, she of course appears as this beautiful apparition. But when Raish joins her in the pit and kisses her, we get a tease that all is not as it seems. Then a few seconds later... Love that part. This whole little sequence reminded me of that scene in The Shining where Jack enters room 237 to see a beautiful young woman who similarly seduces him and ends up being... not young. The fact that they got away with these kind of visuals in an animated Batman show is admirable. They didn't pull any punches with making this villain even more ancient, threatening, and frightening than Raish. Very well done stuff. One thing I was a bit confused by was the flashback at the beginning. While it's a great aesthetic choice to let the visuals and music alone tell the story without other sounds, I could have sworn the explorer who enters the tomb was a young Ra's al Ghul. I guess that doesn't make sense because he seems to be consumed by Thoth Cappera, but man, does it look like him. Down to a less exaggerated version of his hair shape, a similar facial structure, and blue eyes. Maybe that was just done as visual foreshadowing since Raish says he's been obsessed with finding the Queen for 500 years. Or perhaps it's another one of Raish's offsprings. We know he had at least two, but there had to have been more over the centuries, right? I'm probably making something out of nothing, but this was interesting to think about. Avatar is freaking awesome. I loved this. If there's one thing I'd nitpick it for, it's that we didn't need another Lazarus pit as the source of Thoth's power. It would have been cool to see something different and unfamiliar responsible for the otherworldly entity, but that's a minuscule complaint. Whenever we got a chance to have a story outside of Gotham and it was done this well, we couldn't lose. From the visual detail to the top-notch characterization and sci-fi horror adventure elements, this episode is a high-quality, unique tale for our caped crusader. Go watch it and bask in its depraved, majestic glory.
None may defile